Hi everyone, it's Najwa here. Today I'm going to show you how I make passion fruit ice cream and tomato tarte tatin. First, we're going to line the pan with the parchment. You want to use a loose bottom kind of mold, preferably, so that it's easier to unmold the ice cream later. Place that in. You can set that aside and we can get started on the crumb crust first. Alright, first thing, you need your cake flour. Goes into the food processor. Sugar. Oops. Couple pinches of salt. And cold butter. And then you want to pulse it just until it turns into a sandy texture. So this is the texture that you're looking for. You want the butter to incorporate with the flour, so that when it bakes, it will melt and create that crunchy crust that you like. Then I'm gonna pour it into the mold. You can spread it out evenly. Don't worry if it seems like it's a bit too high inside the mold, because we're going to press it down with the fondant smoother. I'm using a fondant smoother. You can choose whatever items you find at home. They'll help do the job. So this is what I'm using. You can use a palette knife. It's fine. As long as it does the job, it's all good. Make sure that your butter is cold and remove it from the fridge only 10 minutes before you start making your crumb crust, because you want it to have this crumbly texture. And that's it. Done. So once that's done, you're going to bake it at 180 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes or until it's golden. So after 20 minutes, it's nice and golden. This is what you're looking for. We can set it aside to cool while we work on the ice cream filling. First, I'm going to slice the passion fruit. So for this recipe, I'm going to use about 3 passion fruit. So it depends on you as well, how much passion fruit you want and the sizes of the passion fruit that you find. And to that, I'm going to add the juice of 2 lime. You can break it down a little bit and mix. To make it easier to pour later on, I'm gonna put it in a piping bag. So be careful when you do this, it's quite watery. So I'm gonna tie the piping bag. Usually if you have excess plastic, you can just tie it on its own. So I'm using a little piping bag elastic to help with it. So next we're going to whip the cream until stiff peak. You want to start on low so that it doesn't splatter everywhere until it starts to thicken up, and you can turn up the speed. So the key thing when you're whipping cream is to keep it cold. If you live in a warmer climate, you can put the bowl with the cream inside the fridge before you start whipping it up. So we'll set the cream aside, and we're going to whip the cream cheese with the sweetened condensed milk. You can just use the same blade, it's fine, because you're going to fold in the cream in the same bowl later. Pour in 1/3 of the sweet condensed milk. And mix. You want to slowly add in the sweetened condensed milk because the cream cheese is quite thick. If you pour it all at once, it's going to end up lumpy. So this is to avoid that from happening. So next we're going to fold in the cream into the cream cheese mixture. You're going to take 1/3 of it and use low speed until combined. And then add another 2/3. Repeat the process until all the cream is inside the cream cheese mixture. So now the mixture is nicely combined. There is no lumps. You're good to go. So we're going to put a layer of the ice cream filling. Ice cream filling, yeah. I'm going to put about half of it first. You have to make sure that the crumb crust has completely cooled. Otherwise, when you're spreading the filling, it might just melt and turn into water. You don't want that. Alright, so that's about half of it. And then you're gonna get your passion fruit filling. Have to be careful, it's quite watery, so just oops. Kind of spread it all over. I try to create like some space in between so that there's room for the pattern later. Just gonna use a skewer and just go back and forth. You want to try and create a swirly pattern. So just have fun with it, really. Add in the rest of the filling. And then repeat the same step as well for the top. Just go back and forth zigzag. Kind of want that swirly pattern to come through. So now we're going to freeze it for about 4 to 6 hours. However, I recommend doing it overnight and it'll be ready the next day. So now that we've done the ice cream, we're going to get started on the tomato tarte tatin. So first we're going to prep the ingredients. Gonna peel the garlic and slice them up. I'm gonna set that aside and I'm gonna get started on my tomatoes. Just gonna cut them across. I'm using red tomato, cherry tomatoes and yellow cherry tomatoes. So it's up to you, whatever that you like. I like the variation in colors. Now that's done, we're gonna get started on the glaze. Alright, you're gonna turn up the heat to medium. In goes the butter. Sugar. Pinch of salt. And about 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. You want to cook it till it looks like it's caramelizing. Yeah. Like right now it's thickening up. You can turn off the heat. Sprinkle in the garlic. And then you'll need a couple sprigs of thyme. Some people don't really like the taste of fresh thyme, so you can adjust to your liking. Alright, stir that in. Next, grab your tomatoes and you're going to line them up onto the pan. Cut side down. So now we're going to leave the tomatoes to do its thing while we work on the pastry. I've used store-bought puff pastry. You can make your own. However, this is more convenient and makes the recipe quick to make. Here I'm using just my cake pan to roughly get the size of my saucepan. You want it slightly wider than the pan that you used. Baking sheet, whatever that you choose, because we're gonna tuck in the edges. Alright, so I'm gonna bring this over. Alrighty, so we're just gonna place it on top. Just gonna cut a little hole on top. I'm gonna brush it with some egg wash. However, you can just leave this out if you don't like any egg wash on your pie. Tart? Yeah. So now we're going to bake it at 200 degrees for 10 minutes, and then we're going to lower it down at 180 for another 10 minutes until it's nice and golden.